All right, we're back for Saskatchewan Lotteries. Rider scratch ticket, $75,000 out there. Season tickets for 10 years. Still out there. Grab your ticket at your Lotto Spot retailer. Joining me in studio, Rider historian. He's been doing this throughout the season on Tuesdays. We absolutely love it. Today, he's in studio with his dog, Canady, Rob Vanstone. Bye week for you. What does that mean?
Lots of time with Canady, as you can see by her residency here this afternoon. It's a good opportunity I'm still working on stories during the week, trying to have something up on riderville.com every day, but it's a chance to dive into projects a bit. I've been trying to put all the rider individual and team stats from every game in team history onto a spreadsheet. So, for example, on Sunday, Hamilton's net offense wasn't especially high, so I was able to go through that spreadsheet and say, okay, last time the Riders allowed fewer yards than this was. That type of thing. Instead of going through stat sheet after stat sheet after stat sheet, year after year after year, scrolling, I want to have it all in one Excel spreadsheet. So that's my kind of ambition.
When was the last time the Riders let that many points?
Montreal was here last year. And I think it was August 2nd, and Riders won handily that day, and Montreal's net offense was in the. I think I was researching passing yards, and it was Hamilton's passing yards was the fewest the Riders had allowed since Montreal was here last year.
169,
or so since the Riders, 169. That's what it was. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
No, since the Riders were in Montreal last year.
Okay.
I apologize. Sorry. Nice guest. I'm on top of things. It's the heat.
That's what I want to get to next.
So that's why I need the spreadsheet so I can actually scroll through it and provide a credible answer.
It was around 50. We both know. You go to practice some days. It's hot down there. If anyone's ever ran around playing soccer or adult flag football league on there, it's hot on that field. It was pushing 50 or just over 50. What's the hottest game you remember in Regina, the Riders playing?
Well, the hottest one ever, I don't remember because amazingly it predates me. It was August 25th, 1952, and Calgary was here, and it was 95 Fahrenheit, which worked out to 35 Celsius, and that's exactly what the official temperature was on Sunday. So that was a tie this past week for the hottest game in Rider history. There's a couple of 34s, there's a couple of 33s, and there's a 32. And but yeah, I was a little spoiled by that one because I was in the press box. And I don't remember a real scorcher in the stands. And I was lucky because I always sat in section 204 on the west side in the upper deck. So even when it was just blistering out, we were safely protected upstairs. So I remember really cold ones, but the canopy on the upper deck was always a nice shield on those scorchers.
I remember early 2000s, we were in town playing in the they used to have a massive touch football tournament here. It was a great chance to party on Labor Day long weekends. Kind of how I met my wife, actually.
Oh wow!
But we sat at Old Taylor Field on the north end zone, the bleacher-ish kind of seats, and it was so hot. And we had it was tarps off season. And it was back in the big baggy cargo shorts days that didn't breathe. And it was...
I think that's an Instagram post waiting to happen.
That's the hottest game I remember being at. Coldest would have been... It was right when I moved to Regina-ish. So it would have been that 2008... When did they play BC in the playoffs?
BC in the playoffs was 2018.
No, it was...
2008.
2008.
Yeah.
That's the coldest I remember being at Taylor Field.
Yeah, I remember mine was late October of 1991, and BC was here, and BC won 36-5, and before the game that morning, I'd gone to pick out a Scottish Terrier, and so the next day I went and actually picked up Oscar the Scottish Terrier from Marg Moran McQuinn, a wonderful breeder in Regina, and that's that football game. It was so absolutely cold. I remember. Figuring I'd get a break and just go into the washrooms were always really toasty back then.
Yeah.
So the game was out of hand. So I thought, I'm just going to take 10 minutes away from this and go warm myself up. And you couldn't get into the bathroom because people were just, clogged with humanity.
Yeah.
And
I think I remember that in that 2008 game. People were just like running to warm up.
The worst one was covering high school football, a provincial championship game a few years ago at Libel Field, and it was so cold. And then I'm standing on the field, and they're giving gold and silver medalists to all the finalists and all the trainers and all the coaches, and I am so cold and I'm frozen. And I remember interviewing the coach, and my hand I was using a digital recorder because I just there was no chance of writing anything down. And my hand was just changing color as I was holding it out there. And it's not very often you think, okay, give us nice short quotes, but it was just like, yes or no answer, please. And it's same with the...
and then you're worried about the batteries going.
My own batteries at this age. And it was the most bitterly cold I've ever been covering a sporting event.
How cold was the huddle up in Saskatchewan game? I remember I wasn't here, but I remember it being cold.
It was a wind issue that day.
Okay.
They almost had to postpone the kickoff because the wind. The temporary bleachers were built to, I think,
That's a sketchy looking bleacher. We have a picture of that.
Oh my goodness! It was built, I think, of the specifications where it could withstand a wind up to 80, and they weren't sure if the wind was going to exceed 80. So I remember there was this just mass of people standing outside the gates, and they wouldn't let anybody in because they didn't know if people could actually go up to the upper reaches of the temporary bleachers. So finally, they let everybody in. And my assignment for that day for the Leader Post was just roam the building or roam the stands and do fan stories. So I thought, hey, let's go to the top row of these temporary bleachers. And I got up there. I was so cold, and I had just a normal Bic pen, and it was so cold that the ink kind of froze in the pen, and so I kind of had to scratch my notes into the notebook.
Oh, yeah.
And then I remember holding the notebook up to kind of the light to see where the indentations were.
Should have got a piece of wood, piece of soft wood.
No kidding. It was absolutely unbearable, and that was probably the coldest I've ever been next to that fateful high school football game.
Gloria Evans was in just a little bit ago, and she was at the game, and I said, crowd, and she said a lot of people she thinks they just set up camp somewhere on the west side, and then as the sun started to go, then they shifted over to the east side on Sunday. Is that what you saw? People just...
I really wasn't paying
survival rate.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happened. I mean, it was just you're sitting in the sun. That is such a...
That's a lot to ask.
Yeah.
It's like going to a college... People ever go to a college game? Last year we took our group of clients down to Austin to watch Texas play Archie Manning, and it was an afternoon game, and you could tell by the forecast it was going to be really hot. And I remember going to a game at Sun Devil Stadium years ago in Tempe in September, and it being hot, Phoenix. So I was telling everyone, hey, just so you know, it's going to be hot. So take a wet cloth or try and find shade or sit somewhere else. And most people did, but some people couldn't. And they were like, yeah, it was 34, 35 sitting in the heat trying to watch it. And college games are like 4 hours long. So I don't think a lot of them lasted. Okay, but back to this game. I wanted to ask about Tommy Stevens. And before you came on, I'm watching with our friend DA at the Craven Motor Inn on Sunday, watching the game. And he goes, can we just sign him for like 10 years and just get him to do this?
He wouldn't object. He says he wants to finish his career here.
But we knew what we had last year. We won the Grey Cup, and he was an integral part. And what did he get stopped once last year? Maybe twice. But what he's doing this year, Rob, I don't know if you got any stats or any data behind that. I just feel like this, however many games in, he is rolling with that position.
Well, if you go back to the Grey Cup, he's got 7 touchdowns in his last 6 games. And, he rushed for 5 touchdowns last year. He's already got 5 this year. And there hasn't been a third down conversion that he's missed yet. And usually he adds a nice gratuity of 25 to 30% more yardage than you want there. So Yeah, it's really and his role is really expanding. Like you're seeing it is kind of He's not just for it's not just for short yardage situations anymore. I mean, there's a strategic element beyond that. He's really forcing the issue, and with him in there and a running back in there, the running back is blocking for the quarterback. It's
that's what Curtis was basically just talking about. Yeah. And then speaking of stopping third down, we talked about it last week. Jackson Ford again.
Yeah, twice, 2 in a row. And I mean, there's somebody that's always been an aggressive player, and he's wading into a land in those situations where people are conventionally 50, 60, 100 pounds heavier than him and making huge impacts. C.J. Rivas was really good at that last year. C.J. Rivas in short yardage situations was terrific. And here's another player who's not one of those behemoths in the trenches, 2 games in a row making an impact. And with him in there starting at safety, I think we're seeing a real breakout year for Jackson Ford.
We had most receiving yards by a Rough Rider after 5 games. I think we talked about this last week too. Ray Algard, Hugh Campbell, Naaman Roosevelt. Forgot about him. Joey Walters, and then Keyshawn Johnson, and now Kean Schaefer Baker.
Getting in there, yeah. So this is getting interesting. You look at some of the numbers. I haven't done the extrapolations yet. I'll have to get my wonderful big pen out and do some calculations. I don't even know if I can still do manual math. That was like 1979 I last did that, but thanks to the wonders of ink, I'm going to see if I can figure out what they're on pace for in terms of especially yardage, because Joey Walters' record is 1,715 receiving yards, his franchise record in 1981, and that was in 16 games. Teams play 18 now, and I think that record, 45 years in the books, might be challenged this year.
Hey, Curtis, I don't know if you got some B-roll to run here in the defensive turnovers or touchdowns, but let's just go to that and throw up some of it. If this interception, and that's another thing that you had, Josh, most interception yards in a season by Rough Rider linebacker. Josh Woods is sitting second.
Yeah, so quickly. Eddie Lowe had 130 in 1990, and Josh Woods has returns of 19 and 107 this year. And so one more pick and even a nominal return, and that record is, if it is a record, I mean, you don't find it in any books anywhere, but it's a pretty cool little stat. This is a 235-pounder taken off on a nice sprint, and Antoine Brooks Jr. with a key block there as well. And Antoine Brooks had an 85-yard interception return touchdown last year. And Tavon Campbell had 112. So you're talking 3 guys on the same defense who have gone off on a marathon touchdown sprint.
How convenient was it that there was all this talk last week about the defense and takeaways and points that the defense given up, and then they go and do this?
Yeah. What
was it, 20 or 28 points off turnovers we scored?
I think it was 20. It was inevitable. There had been so many close calls with interceptions. Marcus Sales had been close, and Tavon Campbell had been close. It was just a matter of time before I think that pendulum swung, and it certainly did at an opportune time. Once, on the strength of Hamilton had the football for almost 12 minutes in the fourth quarter. Explain this. This is one of the most anomalous stats I've ever seen. Hamilton had the ball for, I think, 11:54 out of 15 minutes in the fourth quarter. So you would think that would lend itself to a lot of points.
Yeah.
And it did. Riders scored all 20 points in the fourth quarter, even though Hamilton had the ball for almost 12 of the 15 minutes.
Wow.
Like, that is about as wild a stat as I've ever seen.
Yeah.
But Hamilton just kept getting the ball back and having longer drives, which was fine with the Riders because they were happy to see the Hamilton move 5, 6, 7 yards. And then you get the Josh Woods return, you get the Marcus Sales fumble return.
Yeah.
And then as a 1-play, 1-yard touchdown drive, out comes the offense. It's I have, in all my years of stats obsession, I've never seen a less probable stat than time of possession compared to points scored. You would think there'd be more of a correlation between 11:54 time of possession and 20 points scored for the team that actually had the football. So these are the things that fascinate me. What a engaging guest.
Have you, or were you surprised we didn't see Trey Ford earlier?
A little bit. Trey Ford's always played pretty well against the Rough Riders too, and has played pretty well at Mosaic Stadium. And he's such a puzzle for, especially as a change of pace quarterback. If you've been preparing for Jake Dolegala or Bo Levi Mitchell or whatever, that's a tendency breaker. So I would, and especially with the Hamilton offense struggling as it was, that surprised me a bit. But I think Jake Dolegala needed a lot more help than he was getting. There were the fumbles, there were drop passes, there were penalties. Jake will be Jake. I read a quote where he said, "If I execute, we'll be fine." And Jake's put a lot of the onus on himself, but I think there's a lot of assistance that he could have received from his teammates that he didn't get.
That play right there, that if you're watching the stream at sportscage.com to our YouTube channel or TV, it's like Tavon Campbell almost baits him to throw this to Kenny Lawler on the wideout. Like, he lets him have a little bit of a release, and I could be totally off here, but it's almost like he knows that he has the speed and then the jump to get there and knock that down. I thought that just a little thing of beauty there from the veteran cornerback of the Riders. We are getting some text messages here on the Prairie Land Rentals text line, Rob. I don't want to get into the kicking thing yet. I feel like, man, we are hard on quarterbacks here. We can be hard on coaches, and we're definitely hard on kickers. Alex Hale missed a convert and a field goal as well. Somebody just texted in backing up Hale and saying, didn't we want to run Luca Conji out of town in his first year? Can you ask Mr. Vanstone that?
Luca Conji's first year was pretty efficient. There was never an issue that I can recall with him that year. Feel free to refresh my memory if I'm in error. But Luca was a draft choice in 2006 after Paul McCallum had signed with BC as a free agent, and I think Luca actually did the punting that year too. And I think after Luca there was Chris Milo, and there was a bit of flux in the kicking situation pre Brett Lothar. And a year ago I remember sitting in this very studio and the Brett Lothar issue was being raised. How did that season turn out? And
nice ring. Got a nice ring out of it.
And the kicker who people were commenting on last year, how is he doing this year? So it was 38-7.
I know.
Why are people citing this one area that they feel could be an improvement? Okay, add the field goal and the convert, and the Riders are over 40. It's still a lopsided game. If last year isn't instructive, I don't know what else I can say.
Benny says, I talked about him earlier and his Sports Select tickets that he sends us in. He had a couple of nice hits, one missed on the weekend, but he says Tommy Stevens is the 2019 Strevler, no doubt. How would have Chris's CFL career have turned out if he had stayed? Asked Mr. Vanstone. I know it's hard to say, but
it's a hypothetical,
yeah.
And it was a pretty cool career as it was. And I don't think Chris Strevler is done being associated with the Canadian Football League. Post CFL, he's become a really interesting analyst. I think he helped kind of create a bit of a template that is now being followed here with Tommy Stevens. Players of comparable impact, both really interesting personalities, and there's a bit of a buzz when they walk into the game. It's onto the field. It's not your perfunctory quarterback sneak. It's what might happen.
Yeah,
that's beyond what you might expect. And I remember Chris Strevler coming in as a short yardage quarterback and throwing a touchdown pass to Weston Dressler at one point. And
I think that's coming.
You wonder what's, and I don't have any advanced knowledge of this, but you just wonder, you're seeing, I think, a bit more, you're seeing the role of Tommy Stevens expanding quite a bit. He threw a touchdown pass with the Calgary Stampeders a few years back.
I've seen you walking around the stadium, though, with the play band on your wrist. So I think you do.
That's just my alert bracelet.
Just
I'm getting old.
One of the old school ones. Medical alert bracelets. We got another. Trevor's kind of. I'm not complaining by any means. I'm just maybe a little bit surprised as a casual fan, too, with Trevor here. I thought we were going to maybe see a little bit of Jack Cohn in the game.
I was wondering, when do you put him in? The Riders only had the ball for 3 minutes, right?
Very good point.
I don't think there was, I think there certainly would have been an opportunity if it was your typical fourth quarter in a game where there's a considerable disparity, but there really wasn't. Tommy closed out the game, and that pretty much took care of things. And the circumstances have been different. I'm sure you would have seen Jack in there, but there really weren't many opportunities for anybody on offense to do much except bask in the victory.
We talked about him last week, and anybody that knows the story, and of course Rider fans, you got to be gutted for Sexton and seeing that.
It's tough. I mean, you see Bo the week before,
yes,
and all he's meant to the game. And Matthew Sexton, it's such a different story. I mean, he's 29 in October and has done so much to try and get himself into this situation in pro football. 5 NFL teams, a bunch of leagues, and then when he gets his chance and the lights go on, great debut on Broadway. That punt return for a touchdown in Ottawa, and then 32 and 27-yard punt returns in the first half, 3 for 77 in total, 38-yard kickoff return to begin the third quarter, and that's where he got hurt. And that was really, really tough. Mm-hmm. And you could see by the reaction of the players, and Corey Mace was holding his hand, just how quickly he has become a really popular player here. And you could see that whole family aspect of the team really rallying in support of Matthew Sexton. But that one really... Yeah. You never want to see anybody get injured, but just he finally gets this chance, and he's absolutely crushing it. Mm. And then you see this, and what a terrific! I had a lovely chat with him last week. We just had a nice kind of informal conversation. What a great young man! Yeah. That'll serve him well long beyond football. Yeah.
Rob Vanstone, Rider historian, is joining us here on the Sports Cage on this Tuesday for Saskatchewan Riders. You're going to stick around. Can I ask you a couple other questions after the break?
Sure.
Rob Vanstone is with us. It's the Sports Cage, streaming through our YouTube channel at sportscage.com. Welcome back. Rob Vanstone, Rider historian, joining us. Anyone watching on the YouTube stream, we did kind of get the boot there for a quick moment, but then we were allowed back. It's like getting kicked out of class in school, which I did a lot.
I did that.
Yeah.
Well,
I was desk in the hallway guy, and I was like, it was kind of embarrassing. But then after a while, just was, who cares?
Yeah, for some reason, throwing erasers at a classmate in grade 12 accounting didn't go over well with the teacher.
Erasers. Kids are like, what's that?
No kidding.
What's an eraser? It's a chalkboard. You were cleaning the... erasers. Oh, yeah, whatever. Rob's back with us. Bye week for the Riders. Anything else last week in the league kind of jump out at you? Interested? The one thing that I thought was interesting, and I think Benny the Rochdale Rocket will contest, was the amount of points that were put up in Montreal between Calgary and Montreal. It's 60-67. And I didn't watch that game. But just the other games throughout the week, I was surprised too. Toronto, I had Toronto beating Winnipeg in Winnipeg with Drew Brown starting. That didn't happen.
Yeah, my predictions are pretty dismal traditionally. Anyways, I am really intrigued by what Tyson Philpott's doing in Montreal. If he can stay healthy, I mean, he's already got stats that would be good for an entire season. So we've talked a lot about receivers around the league and the start Kean Schaefer-Baker has had, and Samuel Emelis and Tyson Philpott and Keandre Smith. The caliber of Canadian receivers is so exceptional. It's to the point where you almost don't have to say Canadian receiver because it just doesn't. There's no point in applying a nationality to it. It's they're just of that caliber.
Are we getting close to deepest Canadian receiver CFL ever? Are we getting close to that?
I've thought about that a bit. I remember. I wonder if there's a bit of recency bias there.
For sure.
I watched Jeff Fairholm and Ray Elgard on the same team with James Ellingson as a backup who went to Ottawa and subsequently caught 9 touchdown passes in the same season. Winnipeg had Joe Poplawski and Rick House. Whit Tucker with Ottawa once upon a time. There's Jim Young with BC. It's certainly a great crop of Canadian receivers now. But I look at even at the early '90s when we've got you got Fairholm, you got Elgard, you got Dave Sapunjas in Calgary, Gerald Wilcox. Going back before that a bit, Tony Gabriel, Peter Della Riva. So this is as good a crop of Canadian receivers as there's ever been. I would have to really dive into it to state with some confidence that it's the best, because there was a real golden age of homegrown receivers.
Speaking of golden ages, I want to take you down another path here. I don't know if you watched it. I did. UFC on Saturday. First off, I am not UFC guy.
I can't spell UFC.
If you want to take me back to, UFC 1, UFC 2, like Hoist Gracie, Ken Shamrock, that whole...
Ken Shamrock was a wrestler. That one resonates.
It lasted 1:09. Conor McGregor, he does the jump kick. Looks like he tweaks something in his knee. What is he, 37, 38, 37? When you get to that age, you could be out for a skate or out for a run, and it's easily to tweak some sort of things.
Trust me, I'm 62 and I rode my bike 62 kilometers on Saturday.
In that heat?
Yeah.
You're crazy. What time did you start?
I started on Thursday. I went for 4 hours and 50 some minutes and did 62K with only stops for water. As soon as you stop, the heat got you. Oh. When you're riding, it's fine because you're creating a breeze.
But, I don't know about that. But anyway.
Sorry.
I'm thinking UFC, and I know there's lots of UFC fans out there's no doubt. I know a lot of guys that they live for these things, and when there's a big fight. I was at Conor McGregor's fighting again. When was the last time he fought? And it had been, I think, 2018. I understand he signs a 2-fight contract here, so I don't know if he's going to be back, he's going to be out. But then I just got to start to thinking, and I'm like, how I miss, and I'm turning 49, so I'm not that old, but I miss having these big boxing matches that meant something.
Well, you'd remember Leonard Hagler as a kid. Right?
Yeah, see, I've watched...
That was one of the last ones that really stopped everything.
Where was that one?
That was in 87.
So I would have been 10. So
Sugar Ray hadn't fought for a number of years and came back and beat Marvin Hagler. And the world stopped for that fight.
I think I remember watching a documentary on that.
And, when Leonard fought Duran in 80 and 81, again, everything stopped for that. Any Ali fight, whether it was Joe Frazier, whether it was George Foreman, whether it was Joe Bugner, Ernie Shavers, it didn't have to be a name fighter. Chuck Wepner. It didn't have to be a name fighter for
you
Ali.
You could be throwing out guys to me right now that work at the Safeway. I have no idea. But Muhammad Ali, Joe Frazier, was it 3, the Thrilla in Manila?
I remember listening to that game, and there were round by round updates on the radio. I didn't go to the Connexus Arts Center. They used to have it on the big.
Yeah.
It was closed circuit. You'd pay and you'd go. I listened to it, and after every round they had a live update on the radio. And I remember sitting by the radio in the Vanstone family living room and putting like little check marks beside Ali or Frazier, depending upon who the commentators thought had won the fight. And then Frazier didn't come out for the 15th round, and Ali won. But after the match, Frazier was in better shape than Ali. Ali was exhausted. He went to the hospital, and Joe Frazier went out dancing. What a classic fight that was. Just kind of the last great fight for the two of them. Ali kept going for a number of years, finally finished up against Trevor Burbick, sadly, in 1981. And the Larry Holmes fight the year before was something that never should have happened either. But Ali beat Leon Spinks in 78 for the final and for the title. But after that Joe Frazier fight, he was never the same, and neither was Joe Frazier. I think that just took so much out of them. And it took a lot out of boxing, too. That was probably the absolute peak of boxing, that third Ali Frazier fight.
You talked about Duran versus Sugar Ray Leonard. Now, ESPN, I don't remember, ESPN 30 for 30 has a great one on it where Duran kind of surprised everybody in that, and he was in such good shape. And, they didn't know a ton about him, but he came in and he beat him. And then he just went off the rails, kind of got a little chubby and didn't train as hard, and then they went at it again, and Sugar Ray, and that was the no mas.
Yeah, and I remember just in shock, like Roberto Duran of all people, like the toughest guy on earth, and but Sugar Ray, the first fight against Duran, he tried to fight more of a brawling style and kind of go toe to toe with Duran, because he'd heard a lot of the criticism about his fighting style and compared to Duran, and he wanted to prove that he could just punch it up like Duran could, as opposed to being a stylist. So in the second fight, he came out and said, "I'm just going to be Sugar Ray," and he was doing bolo punches and dancing and everything. And not only did he win handily, but I think he humiliated Roberto Duran, and that was the premature end to that fight. I used to really follow this stuff.
This is great.
I have Muhammad Ali's autograph, by the way. So.
Do you?
Yeah, I wrote to him. He used to answer all his fan mail, so I wrote to him in 1982, and he sent an autograph back to Rob Vanstone, my greatest fan, from Muhammad Ali, 3-time champ.
Is that ever cool?
And I got Frazier. I got Larry Holmes.
You were a big boxing guy.
Yeah, I mean, if you're growing up in the 70s, you just couldn't help it. I mean, it was such a... I remember the utter shock when George Foreman knocked out Joe Frazier and knocked him down 7 times.
Wow.
Like, unreal.
I think like I was Mike Tyson, right? That's what I remember, and then Tyson and Holy. We could probably go on to this forever. We're getting long in the tooth, Curtis. Yeah. Should we? Okay.